let me ask you, has James Gunn's new DCU, the new DC universe, sort of hurt the 2023 DC films that are coming out, which are all meant to be a part of the old DCEU? So they don't really necessarily translate over to the new continuity. But James Gunn has already announced all the new projects that are going to be part of this new universe. Do you think that has sort of put the kibosh on the audience interest in the current movies?
Oh, 100%. I mean, we were talking about it earlier when we were talking about Blue Beetle. This is the first movie that James Gunn has actually made an effort to say, like, we're keeping him around, so, like, go see the movie. It affects the marketing, it affects the conversation, it affects the morale amongst actors, it affects marketing rollouts, it affects the amount of money that they put into marketing these movies, because I can only imagine that they pulled back way back on the marketing budget for these movies when they were like, James Gunn's not going to move forward with these, so like we're going to take what we can and salvage the rest. So the whole plan for DCU has been severely impacted by this. Then you have the back and forth with Gal Gadot. We had the back and forth with Henry Cavill as new Superman. We've had remarks from Ben Affleck that James Gunn's new DCU has actually approached him to direct some of the upcoming movies. And he's like, I will not be doing that. I'm not doing that. I don't see myself fitting into the new universe. I don't have any interest in doing that. And that's a really strong comment for someone like Ben Affleck.
Like a rebuke of James Gunn's plans, which is, I think like to do that it definitely felt like Ben Affleck was like, thank you, but no thanks.
Literally, thank you, but no thank you. And when that stuff comes out in the open, I'm always just kind of like, this isn't worth my time. This isn't worth my time. This isn't worth my time. Because it creates this sort of like superhero fatigue of, am I even going to like this movie? Why am I investing into this movie? With that being said, though, I went to go see The Flash, and I really liked The Flash. And
it was a fun movie, yeah.
But now I'm kind of sad because we don't think he's moving forward as The Flash. So it's like, it's a lot to invest consistently in the new superhero movie that comes out every month, it seems, if they have no future. Also, I've seen like 18 different iterations of Batman in the last 5 years. Like, I'm getting kind of tired of Batman and the different iterations of him. Christopher Nolan's Batman's still my favorite. Like, I said what I said. You know what I mean? So I definitely think James Gunn, in a way, has hurt DCU this year. But that's not to say that what he's doing is not cleaning the slate entirely to make DCU the best it has ever been. Because obviously it's been struggling. It was previously struggling. That's why they brought James Gunn in. And now there's sort of a clear runway for him to like do whatever he needs to do. But the actors' strike has reduced the studio's ability to make money in the current movies. And then with that being said, the actors' strike has also delayed filming for any of these like slated projects. So I feel like James Gunn kind of got himself stuck in a corner for a little bit.
We were getting all these casting announcements for Superman Legacy, and then the strike hits. And of course, you can't negotiate new deals. You can't do anything with actors while they're on strike. So, but he has been taking questions and like being active on social. Like he was asked recently, is the new Superman movie like a young Superman movie? Like in its early days, he was like, no, it's not a young Superman movie. It's just it's a Superman like in his maybe like he's in the present day basically.
Yeah.
So even though he's casting an actor in David Corenswet who is like a good 10 years younger than Henry Cavill, the story isn't necessarily going to be like taking place in the past or anything like that. It's going to be Superman in the present day of this new DC continuity. But I do agree with you that there's definitely been that knock-on effect where if you're going to announce all of these new projects and you're going to say there's like a clear dividing line between what's going to be canon and what's not going to be canon, it does make the current set of movies kind of feel like lame duck movies where you're just going to go and watch them, but they don't really have much of a future. Yeah. And then when you see the way they ended The Flash with that George Clooney cameo, it was so cheap. It was like, okay, I can see why it was so fun, but I definitely cannot imagine them moving forward in the new continuity with George Clooney being back as the Batman of the franchise. You know, especially coming out of nowhere when Michael Keaton had been invested. Yeah, I mean, Michael Keaton had been invested in this longer. Like he was part of Batgirl, which got scrapped. He was in The Flash. So if there was any kind of hope, and with Ben Affleck being more involved recently in this year's movies, it felt like one of those two would be back. not George Clooney. So when George Clooney comes back, you're like, okay, so this movie clearly like where it ends is sort of the end of this continuity as is. And with Blue Beetle, you can see now what James Gunn saying clearly on multiple occasions, whether it was on the Michael Rosenbaum podcast or recently when he was on Instagram and going to watch Blue Beetle, he was like excited to see this Blue Beetle character. He's going to play a big role in the new DCU story moving forward. You can tell that either he means it. I mean, and I sure hope he does, that the Blue Beetle is going to be in the new DCU, or he realizes that if he doesn't kind of drive that point home that these characters aren't gonna just disappear overnight, then it is going to hurt these movies' chances in the box office, because The Flash didn't even make $250 million. And Shazam didn't even make $150 million. And then Black Adam underperformed.
Budget movies.
So these are like huge money losers. These have been huge money losers. So now with Aquaman, the first Aquaman made $1 billion. Will Aquaman 2 make anywhere close to that? We don't know. But one thing we have heard is that Jason Momoa may continue in the role. Of course, James Gunn keeps saying Blue Beetle will move forward. There was that post-credit scene in Flash which kind of hinted that Aquaman also is going to be the same in every universe. So if they are like this new DC universe, it's a new continuity in a new parallel universe to the old DCEU, then Jason Momoa is still playing the role. So I don't know exactly how the mechanics of that are going to work in the story world, but ultimately it feels like there is still some like lack of clarity, like you said, with Wonder Woman, and like whether she's going to be back. Is Gal Gadot going to continue in the role or not? I just hope that they can get their ducks in a row enough to not only give the current set of movies enough of a runway to succeed, but also let's try to avoid attaching baggage to the future DCU projects, which basically I think is a big reason why a lot of the recent DC movies have been failing, is because whether it was the Ezra Miller situation, whether it was the pandemic that killed the box office for Wonder Woman in 1984, or the Suicide Squad, it seems like every time a DC movie comes out, there's some kind of asterisk that has to go next to the movie, and that's the reason why it didn't work. I'm just tired of I just want to get another Batman. Like, the Batman was a movie that didn't have any baggage, and that movie made like over $700 million. Granted, it's not part of the DC content, the larger DC continuity. I still think that if they can come out with more movies that don't have that baggage, then that's going to help them out. And I think the Blue Beetle is kind of that. But even then, the actors strike and everything else that's going on around it, I feel like Blue Beetle even wouldn't qualify as like a completely like baggage-free movie, because and struggling at the box office too. So I mean, I'm hoping that the new DCU does kind of wipe the slate clean, like you said, and starts us on a new path, hopefully, where every new DC movie is as successful as every Marvel movie can expect it to be.
Yeah, well, we will see what happens.